Welcome back to our sanctuary of stories. Before we begin tonight, I want you to find that space of absolute stillness. Let your body sink into the mattress, feeling the support beneath you. Unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Take a deep, slow breath in, filling your lungs with cool, quiet air, and let it out, releasing the tension of the day into the dark. Tonight, we are not traveling to the stars, nor to the mystical lands of gods. We are traveling to the quiet, cold mountains of Earth. We are going to a place of solitude, to a laboratory hidden beneath the rock, to witness the birth of a being who was designed to be perfect. This is the story of Cell. It is not a story of malice, though it contains danger. It is a story of biology, of legacy, and of a lonely search for completion. It is the story of a creature composed of the ghosts of the past, weaving them together into a single complex soul. So, close your eyes. Listen to the sound of the wind howling through the mountain passes. Smell the scent of pine needles and cold stone. Let us drift back to the northern mountains, to a time of quiet obsession. The laboratory was buried deep within the granite heart of the mountains. It was not a place of warmth, it was a place of steel, glass, and the low rhythmic hum of servers that never slept. Outside, the world was alive. The wind whipped through the canyons, carrying the scent of snow and damp earth. Eagles circled the peaks, watching the valleys below with sharp, golden eyes. The seasons changed, turning the green pines to white statues of ice, and then back to green again. But inside the sub-basement of Dr. Gero's laboratory, time did not exist in seasons. Time was measured in cycles, in computations, in the slow, microscopic division of cells. Dr. Gero was a man who lived in the past. He was a brilliant mind, a genius of robotics and engineering. But his heart had stopped beating the day the Red Ribbon Army fell. He was a ghost, haunting his own machinery. He moved through the metal corridors of his lab like a specter, his steps silent on the grated floor, his mind constantly replaying the defeats of yesterday. He was driven by a single consuming purpose: perfection. He wanted to create something that could not fail, something that would stand as a monument to his intellect and a tombstone for his enemies. But as the years turned into decades, the doctor grew old. His hands, once steady enough to solder microscopic circuits, began to tremble. His eyes, once sharp enough to spot a flaw in a blueprint from across the room, began to dim. He realized, with the cold logic that defined him, that he would not live to see his masterpiece completed. The ultimate creation, the organic android, the bio-android, was too complex. It required time that Gero did not have. It required a gestation period, not of months, but of decades. So he delegated the dream. He entrusted his greatest work to the supercomputer. Imagine this machine. It was not a sleek modern device. It was a behemoth of the old world, a massive wall of blinking lights, spinning magnetic tape reels, and thick black cables that hung like vines from the ceiling. It sat in the deepest level of the lab, a room that smelled of ozone and stagnant air. It hummed with a deep, baritone vibration that could be felt in the teeth. Thrum, 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 thrum. It was the heartbeat of the laboratory. Dr. Gero eventually died. His human life ended, and even his mechanical resurrection was cut short. The lab fell silent. The lights in the upper levels flickered and died. Dust began to settle on the workbenches, covering the blueprints and the discarded tools in a soft gray blanket. Spiders spun webs in the corners of the room where androids 17 and 18 had once slept. But downstairs, in the dark, the supercomputer continued to think. Click, whir, hum. It did not mourn its creator. It did not feel loneliness. It simply executed the program. It continued the work. It was the patient gardener tending to a single precious seed planted in a tank of green fluid. That seed was Cell. At this stage, he was not a monster. He was not a warrior. He was a cluster of cells, floating in a suspension of nutrients, dreaming in the dark. He was a microscopic possibility. To build perfection, the computer needed the perfect materials. It could not build a god out of steel and oil. It needed the essence of the greatest warriors the universe had ever known. And so, we must speak of the spy robots. They were tiny things. Mechanical insects the size of dragonflies. They were designed to be invisible, to be silent observers of history. They did not interfere. They did not fight. They simply watched. Close your eyes and imagine the journey of one of these little machines. It hovered over the wastelands of Earth, its tiny camera lens adjusting to the light. It watched Goku and Vegeta fight their first battle. It saw the garlic gun and the Kamehameha clash, a collision of violet and blue light that scorched the clouds. The robot did not feel the heat. It measured the energy output. It did not feel the rage. It analyzed the adrenaline levels. It flew close, so close that it could sample the air around the warriors. It collected the cells shed in battle, a drop of blood falling to the rocks, a bead of sweat evaporating in the heat, a strand of hair caught in the wind. It was harvesting ghosts. It traveled to Namek. Imagine the little machine floating through the void of space, a speck of metal in the infinite black. It landed on the blue grass of the Namekian homeworld. It watched the tyrant Frieza transform, his body shifting and growing. It collected the icy purple genetic material of the cold bloodline. The durability, the ability to survive in a vacuum, the raw aristocratic power. It watched the Super Saiyan awakening. It recorded the golden light of Goku's rage. It captured the cells of Piccolo, the Namekian wisdom and regeneration. It captured the cells of the Earthlings, the cleverness of Tien, the resilience of Krillin. It brought them all back to the mountain. The drone returned to the lab, slipping through a ventilation shaft, descending into the dark. It deposited its harvest into the machine. The supercomputer took these disparate elements: the Saiyan drive for battle, the Namekian ability to heal, the Frost Demon's durability, and it began to weave them together. It was a slow process, genetic knitting. In the green tank, the embryo began to grow. It was a cicada sleeping in the earth. It had no consciousness yet, only instinct. It floated in the fluid, listening to the hum of the machine, absorbing the memories of the cells it was made of. It dreamed of fighting. It dreamed of a golden light it had never seen. It dreamed of a purple tyrant it had never met. It felt the phantom pains of battles it had never fought. It was a collage of other people's lives, waiting to form a life of its own. Years passed. Above the ground, the world changed. Heroes rose and fell. The seasons continued their endless cycle. Snow covered the mountain. The sun melted the snow. Flowers bloomed. Flowers died. But in the sub-basement, nothing changed. The fluid bubbled. The lights blinked. The data processed. Age 767 passed. Age 770. Age 780. The timeline we know. The timeline where Goku lived, where the androids were defeated, where peace reigned, split away. We are now drifting into a different current of time. A darker current. We are in the future. Age 708. The world outside the lab is no longer peaceful. It is silent. But it is the silence of a graveyard. The sky is perpetually grey, choked with the smoke of burning cities. The great capitals of the world, West City, North City, Gingertown, are ruins. Skyscrapers stand like broken teeth, their windows shattered, their steel skeletons rusting in the acid rain. Vines and moss have begun to reclaim the streets, growing over the crushed remains of cars and the craters left by energy blasts. Humanity is almost gone. They have been hunted to the brink of extinction by the twin demons, Android 17 and Android 18, but the demons are gone now too. A warrior named Trunks, the last son of the Saiyans, finally defeated them. He used a remote shutdown controller in this timeline, or perhaps he grew strong enough to destroy them. The details are lost to the wind. All that matters is that they are dead. Peace has returned to the future, but it is a fragile, lonely peace. In the mountain lab, the cycle completed. The supercomputer let out a long, final tone. A signal that the work was done. The gestation was over. The fluid in the tank drained away with a gurgling sound. The glass hissed as it slid open. Cell opened his eyes. He was not yet the perfect being. He was in his first form, imperfect. He stepped out of the tank, his feet touching the cold metal floor for the first time. He was tall, skeletal, insect-like. His skin was a mottled green, spotted with black. He had a long tail that ended in a sharp, dangerous needle. His face was a mask of bone, with a beak-like mouth and eyes that were reptilian and vertical. He shivered. The air in the lab was freezing. The heating systems had failed years ago. He stood there, wet with nutrient fluid, shaking in the dark. "Hello?" he croaked. His voice was rasping, like dry leaves rubbing together. There was no answer, only the whir of the cooling fans. He looked around. He saw the dead body of Dr. Gero, long since reduced to dust and scraps of clothing in the corner. He saw the smashed remains of the other androids' pods. He walked to the computer console. He placed a 3-fingered hand on the screen. The data scrolled past his eyes. He didn't need to read it. He felt it. It was part of him. Designation: cell, objective, perfection, method, absorb Android 17 and Android 18. He felt a hunger, a deep, gnawing emptiness in the center of his being. It wasn't a hunger for food, it was a hunger for completion. He felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. He knew with an instinct woven into his DNA that he could never be whole until he found them. 17, he whispered. 18. He turned and walked toward the exit. He moved with a strange, jerky grace, his joints clicking softly. He climbed the stairs, pushing open the heavy steel doors that had been sealed for decades. He stepped out into the sunlight of age 788. It was raining. A cold gray drizzle that soaked his skin. He looked out over the valley. He sensed the air. He tasted the wind with his tongue. He searched for the energy signatures. He searched for the infinite burning engines of the twin androids. Silence. He searched the entire planet with his mind. He found small pockets of human survivors huddled in caves. He found the energy of trunks burning bright in the west. But the androids, they were gone. Cell stood on the cliff edge, the rain dripping from his crown. A feeling of absolute despair washed over him. He was born too late. The pieces he needed to become perfect had been destroyed. His destiny had been cancelled before he even took his first breath. The obsession of Dr. Gero, the decades of calculation, the gathering of ghosts. It was all for nothing. He was a key made for a lock that had been melted down. "Gone!" he hissed. The sound was lost in the wind. He felt a surge of anger, the cyan cells in his blood demanding a target. Then he felt a wave of cold logic, the freezer cells calculating a solution. Then a moment of patience, the Namekian cells urging him to wait, to think. He sensed something else. In the west, near the ruins of Capsule Corporation, a strange energy. It wasn't biological, it was temporal. He began to fly. He kept his energy suppressed, a ghost moving through the fog. He flew over the ruined cities, over the forests that were slowly consuming the highways. He arrived at the Capsule Corp ruins. He saw trunks. The young man was preparing a machine, a time machine. It was a bulbous yellow craft with the word hope stenciled on the side. Trunks was loading supplies. He was preparing to travel back to the past, to tell his friends that he had won, to tell them that the future was finally safe. Cell watched from the shadows of a crumbled building. He looked at the machine. He understood immediately. The computer had uploaded data on time travel theories. If the androids were gone in this time, they might still exist in the past. If he could go back to a time before they were destroyed, he could claim them. He could become perfect. But the machine was too small. It was built for a human or a Saiyan. It was a cockpit designed for one person. Cell, in his current form, was too large. He was 7 feet tall, with a massive tail and wide shoulders. He wouldn't fit. He looked at Trunks. He felt the boy's power. It was strong, but Cell possessed the element of surprise. And he possessed the techniques of the Z-fighters. He waited. He waited until Trunks was distracted, waving goodbye to his mother, Bulma. He didn't attack with a scream. He attacked with the silence of a spider. A solar flare to blind them. A piercing beam to end the struggle before it began. It was quick. It was necessary. He felt no malice toward Trunks. Trunks was simply an obstacle between him and his perfection. With Trunks gone, Cell stood before the time machine. He touched the cold metal hull. It was wet with rain. It smelled of hope. But now it would carry a nightmare. He looked at the cockpit. It was definitely too small. He had to make a choice. To go back, he had to regress. He had to undo his own growth. He had to return to his embryonic state. He had to become a larva again. It was a terrifying thought, to give up his limbs, to give up his voice, to become a helpless, soft grub once more. He would have to sleep in the machine for years, while it charged and while it traveled. But the hunger for perfection was stronger than the fear of regression. He pressed the buttons on the console, setting the coordinates. Age 763. A time before the androids were awakened. A time of opportunity. He climbed out of the cockpit. He stood in the rain one last time. He concentrated. He pushed his energy inward. His body began to contort. His bones softened. His skin liquefied. He shrank. Down, down, down. The tall, imposing warrior dissolved. In his place was a large, purple, beetle-like larva. It had 4 legs and a hard shell. He crawled. It was humiliating. It was slow. He crawled up the side of the machine, his small claws scratching against the paint. He squeezed himself into the cockpit. It was dark inside, tight. He curled up in the seat, tucking his legs beneath him. He initiated the hibernation sequence. The lid of the time machine hissed shut, sealing him in. The engine fired. A burst of blue light illuminated the ruins of West City. The machine rose into the air, hovering for a moment like a strange yellow moon. Then it vanished. It slipped through the cracks of time, leaving the empty, silent future behind. Cell closed his eyes. He surrendered to the darkness. He surrendered to the sleep. He drifted in the void between seconds. He was alone again. Just a cluster of cells and a dream of perfection, floating in a metal egg across the ocean of time. He slept. And as he slept, he dreamed of the voice he would one day have. He dreamed of the power that would shake the earth. He dreamed of the day he would finally, truly wake up. But for now, there was only the hum of the engine, the rhythmic vibration of the journey. Thrum, 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 thrum. Safe in the dark, waiting. The sleep was long. It was not a sleep of hours or days, but a hibernation of years. Deep beneath the earth, buried in the loam and the roots of ancient trees, the yellow time machine sat in silence. It had become part of the landscape. Moss had grown over the glass canopy, turning the clear view into a fuzzy green twilight. Vines had wrapped around the landing struts, anchoring the vessel to the soil. The metal was cold, absorbing the chill of the underground winters and the damp warmth of the springs. Inside, the passenger waited. Cell was no longer the tall, imposing warrior who had stood in the rain of the future. He was a larva, a large purple segmented creature curled into a tight ball in the cramped cockpit. His metabolism had slowed to a crawl. His heartbeat was a rare event, a single thud every few hours, just enough to keep the genetic material viable. He was dreaming. In his dreams, he was not alone. He heard the voices of the cells that made him. He felt the burning pride of Vegeta, a fire that refused to go out. He felt the cold, calculating intellect of Frieza, a shard of ice in his mind. He felt the boundless optimism of Goku, a strange, warm light that he didn't understand. And underneath it all, the quiet, stoic wisdom of Piccolo. They were ghosts trapped in a biological bottle, waiting to be poured out. Age 763 pass it. Age 764. Age 765. The world above spun on. Events played out that Cell could not see. Frieza came to Earth and died. Goku returned. The androids appeared. The Z-fighters trained. But underground, there was only the slow, rhythmic hum of the hibernation cycle. Then, in age 767, the timer reached 0. The machine shuddered. A mechanism clicked, breaking the silence of 4 years. The hibernation gas vented with a hiss, filtering out into the dirt. Cell's eyes opened. They were black, shiny, and compound. He uncurled his legs. He felt the cramp of the long sleep. He felt the hunger. It was sharper now, a physical pain that clawed at his stomach. He needed to grow. He needed to change. He pushed against the canopy. The moss tore. The glass popped open, pushing aside the heavy earth that had settled on top of it. Dirt cascaded into the cockpit. It smelled of rain and worms. Cell crawled out. He moved awkwardly, his heavy shell dragging against the metal. He dug his claws into the soil and pulled himself upward. He tunneled through the soft earth, pushing past rocks and roots, seeking the surface, seeking the air. He broke through. It was night. The forest was dark, illuminated only by the pale light of the moon filtering through the canopy of leaves. The air was rich with oxygen. It tasted sweet. It tasted alive. Cell dragged his heavy body onto a patch of grass. He was exhausted. The journey through time and the awakening had drained his energy reserves. He needed to molt. He was trapped in this clumsy, larval form, a king wearing the robes of a beggar. He found a large tree, an oak with bark as rough as dragon scales. He dug his claws into the wood. He climbed slowly, painfully, until he was hidden among the branches. He hooked his legs into the bark, securing himself. He became still. The transformation began. It was a violent, silent struggle. His internal structure began to liquefy and reform. His bones lengthened. His muscles knit themselves into new shapes. The pressure inside his shell built until it was agonizing. He wanted to scream, but he had no vocal cords, only the clicking mandibles of an insect. Crack! A fissure appeared on the back of his purple shell. Steam escaped into the night air. It was the heat of his own biology, burning bright. Cell pushed. He arched his back. He forced his new body out of the old prison. It was a slow, wet birth. He pulled one arm free, then the other. They were long, green, and spotted with black. They were hands, not claws. Hands that could make a fist. Hands that could fire a Kamehameha. He pulled his head free. He gasped, drawing his first breath of Earth's air into his new lungs. He fell from the shell. He landed on the forest floor on his hands and knees. He was covered in a clear, viscous fluid that gleamed in the moonlight. He was shivering. He stood up. He was tall. He stood on 2 legs. He looked down at his body. He was skeletal, his frame thin and angular. His face was a mask of bone, with a beak-like mouth and sharp, vertical pupils. He had a crown of 2 horns, and behind him, dragging on the grass, was his tail. The tail was his lifeline. It was a thick, muscular appendage ending in a sharp point. But the point opened. It was a funnel, a needle, a mouth. Cell flexed his fingers. He felt the power humming in his veins. It was low, dangerously low, but the potential was infinite. He looked up at the empty shell he had left clinging to the tree. It was a ghost of what he had been. "Imperfect," he whispered. His voice was raspy, a deep vibrating drone that sounded like 2 stones grinding together deep in a cavern. He looked around the forest. He sensed life, small lives, birds sleeping in nests, deer grazing in the clearing. He was hungry, but he didn't want animals. Animals were fuel for a fire, but they were not fuel for a nuclear reactor. He needed sentient life. He needed bioextract. He needed the rich, complex energy of human beings. He checked his internal chronometer. The computer had uploaded the history of this timeline before he left. He knew where he was. He knew when he was. The androids 17 and 18 should be active soon. But he was too weak to face them. If he challenged them now, in this skeletal form, they would crush him. He needed to hide, he needed to feed, he needed a hunting ground. He sensed a cluster of energy to the west. Thousands of tiny, flickering lights. A city. "Gingertown," he croaked. He did not fly. Flying would flare his ki. It would alert the guardians of this world. Piccolo, Vegeta, the others. He needed to be a phantom. So he walked. He moved through the forest with terrifying silence. He didn't snap twigs. He didn't disturb the leaves. He moved like a shadow, his long legs eating up the distance. He was a predator that had evolved beyond the need for stealth, yet used it as a preference. He reached the edge of the forest as the sun began to rise. Gingertown was a small, sleepy suburb. It was not a metropolis like West City. It was a place of low buildings, quiet streets, and parks with swing sets. It was a place where people lived simple lives, unaware that they were sitting on the edge of an apocalypse. Cell stood on a hill overlooking the town. He watched the lights turn on in the houses. He watched the milk trucks making their rounds. He watched the world wake up. He felt no pity. He felt no malice. He felt only the equation. Population, 15,000. Energy potential, sufficient for stage 2. He descended the hill. He entered the city limits. A dog barked at him from behind a fence. A large, aggressive German shepherd. It snapped at the strange, tall figure walking down the sidewalk. Cell stopped. He looked at the dog. He flicked his tail. The tail blurred. The needle tip pierced the dog's side. There was no yelp, no struggle, just a sound like a straw slurping the bottom of a cup. The dog seemed to deflate. Its muscle, its blood, its very essence was sucked through the tail and into Cell's body. In seconds, there was nothing left but skin and fur. Cell retracted his tail. He felt a tiny, microscopic jolt of energy. It was a drop of water in a desert. "Insufficient," he muttered. He walked on. He found a man waiting at a bus stop. The man was reading a newspaper, holding a briefcase. He was thinking about his job, his mortgage, his dinner plans. Cell stepped into the bus shelter. His shadow fell over the newspaper. The man looked up. He saw the green skin. He saw the beak. He saw the stinger. The man opened his mouth to scream. Cell's tail moved faster than sound. It wrapped around the man's neck, silencing the cry. The needle struck the chest. The absorption was a horrifyingly intimate process. Cell didn't just eat the man. He integrated him. He took the biological energy, the calories, the potential. The man's briefcase fell to the ground. The newspaper fluttered away in the wind. The man vanished. His clothes, his suit, his tie, his shoes fell to the pavement in a heap. Empty. Hollow. Cell stood there, breathing in. He felt better, stronger. The emptiness in his stomach receded by a fraction. He looked down the street. Rows of houses, rows of lives. He began the harvest. It was not a battle. It was a quieting. Cell moved from house to house. He entered through unlocked doors. He broke through windows with a gentle tap. He found people making breakfast. He found people in the shower. He found children watching cartoons. He drank them all. He didn't leave bodies. He didn't leave blood. He left only clothes. Imagine walking through Gingertown an hour later. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. The televisions are still on, playing news reports or commercials for capsules. Coffee cups are sitting on tables, steam still rising from them. But there are no people. There are piles of laundry on the floor, a dress on a kitchen chair, a pair of jeans standing upright for a second before crumbling, a child's pajamas on a bed. The silence was heavy. It was the silence of a held breath. Cell moved through the streets, his power growing with every step. He felt the energy of the town flowing into him. He felt the memories of the people he absorbed, flashes of birthday parties, arguments, fierce loves, flickering in his mind before being deleted by the computer in his brain. They were just data. They were just fuel. He was becoming denser. His exoskeleton was hardening. His speed was increasing. But he was still not satisfied. The hunger was a bottomless pit. High above the earth, on the floating sanctuary of the lookout, a god was watching. Kami, the ancient Namekian guardian of earth, stood at the edge of his temple. He leaned on his staff, his wrinkled face pale with horror. He had seen many evils in his centuries of life. He had seen King Piccolo. He had seen the Saiyans. He had seen Frieza. But this was different. This wasn't an evil that shouted. This was an evil that erased. Kami watched the lights of human souls in Gingertown winking out one by one. It was like watching candles being snuffed in a dark room. "It is not a disturbance in the force," Kami whispered, his voice trembling. "It is a void, a hole in the world that is getting bigger." Piccolo stood behind him. The warrior Namekian, fused with Nail, was impatient. He sensed something was wrong, but he couldn't see what Kami saw. "What is it, old man?" Piccolo demanded. "Spit it out. Is it the androids?" "No," Kami said, turning to face his other half. "It is something else. Something unnatural. I cannot stay here, Piccolo. I cannot watch this. We must merge." Piccolo paused. For years, he had sought this union, to become the Super Namekian, to reclaim his full power. But Kami had refused, citing the need for a guardian. Now, Kami was offering it freely. "It is that bad?" Piccolo asked. "Look," Kami said, pointing his staff toward the ground. "Look at the silence." Piccolo looked. He focused his senses on Gingertown. He felt the terror. He felt the sudden mass disappearance of thousands of lives. "Fine," Piccolo said, "but I am the base. I am the warrior. You are just the wisdom." "I know," Kami said softly. "Save them, Piccolo." They touched hands. A blinding white light enveloped the lookout. The two halves of the ancient being became one again. The nameless Namekian was reborn. He opened his eyes. He felt immense. He felt the power of a god flowing through his limbs. But he didn't have time to celebrate. "I see you," Piccolo whispered, looking down at the earth. "I see you, monster." He jumped. He plummeted from the lookout, a streak of white light diving toward the surface. Back in Gingertown, Cell was finishing his meal. He stood in the center of the main street. He was surrounded by empty cars and piles of clothing. The wind blew a discarded hat across the asphalt. He felt a massive energy approaching. He stopped. He wiped a spot of biofluid from his beak. "Finally," Cell said. "A main course." He recognized the energy. It was Piccolo. But it was different. It was deeper, vaster. Cell didn't run. He wanted to test himself. He wanted to see how much stronger he had become. He stood his ground, his tail twitching behind him like a cat's. Piccolo landed. He hit the pavement with a heavy thud, cracking the concrete. He stood up, his white cape billowing in the wind. He looked around at the ghost town. He looked at the piles of clothes. His expression hardened into a mask of pure disgust. "What did you do?" Piccolo asked. His voice was low, dangerous. Cell chuckled. It was a wet, grating sound. "I had lunch. I was starving. You can't begrudge a growing boy a meal, can you?" Piccolo looked at the creature. He saw the insect eyes, the spots, the familiar energy radiating from him. "Who are you?" Piccolo demanded. "You're not an android. You feel like everyone." Cell stepped forward. He flared his aura, It was a terrifying sight. Usually, a warrior has one aura, one color, one feeling. Cell's aura was a chaotic storm. It was gold like a Super Saiyan. It was purple like Frieza. It was white like a Namekian. It was a slurry of stolen souls. "I am your brother," Cell said, tilting his head. "I am your enemy. I am the ghost of your past." He adopted a stance. Piccolo's eyes went wide. He knew that stance. It was the stance Goku used. "Kaime," Cell rasped. He cupped his hands at his side. A blue light began to gather between his palms. "Ah!" Piccolo froze. "Impossible." "Me." The light grew intense, illuminating the empty street. "Ah!" Cell fired. A massive beam of blue energy screamed toward Piccolo. Piccolo dodged at the last second, leaping into the air. The blast destroyed a row of houses behind him, vaporizing them instantly. Piccolo floated in the air, looking down. "You know the Kamehameha? Are you a Saiyan?" Cell laughed. He jumped up to meet Piccolo. "I am a Saiyan. I am a Namekian. I am a frost demon. I am a human. I am the culmination of all things." He attacked. They fought in the sky above the empty town. It was a brutal, close-quarters brawl. Cell was strong, surprisingly so. He used Tien's solar flare. He used Frieza's death beam. He used the techniques of the Z-fighters against them, but he was still imperfect. Piccolo, freshly fused with Kami, was stronger. He was faster. He caught Cell's arm. He twisted it. He punched Cell in the stomach, hard enough to make the creature retch. Cell flew backward, crashing into a football stadium. He lay in the rubble of the bleachers. Piccolo landed on the field. He walked toward Cell. "You're strong," Piccolo admitted. "But you're not strong enough. Tell me what you are, and I might make your death quick." Cell lay in the dust. He was bleeding purple blood. His arm was broken. He realized he had miscalculated. The hunger had made him reckless. He wasn't ready for this level of power yet. He needed more biomass. He needed to hide. But he also had a secret weapon: information. "You want to know?" Cell asked, clutching his broken arm. "Fine. I'll tell you. It's quite a story." He stood up. His arm hung limply at his side. "I am Cell," he began. "I am an android created by Dr. Gero's computer, but not in this time. In the future. About 20 years from now." Piccolo listened. He kept his guard up, but his curiosity kept him from striking. Cell told him everything. He told him about the spy robots. He told him about the harvest of cells. He told him about the perfection he sought. "Perfection?" Piccolo asked. "What does that mean?" "It means 17 and 18, Cell hissed. "I was designed to absorb them. When I do, I will become a being of unimaginable power. I will become the ultimate life form." Piccolo sneered. "Not if I kill you right here." "True," Cell said. "But you made a mistake, Piccolo." "What mistake?" "You listened." While Cell was talking, while he was monologuing, He was also concentrating. He was using the cells of Piccolo inside him to regenerate. Snap. His broken arm popped back into place. The purple bruises faded. "Solar flare!" Cell screamed. A blinding flash of white light erupted from his forehead. Piccolo covered his eyes, blinded for a second. Damn it! When the light faded, the stadium was empty. Cell was gone. Piccolo scanned the area. He searched for the chaotic energy, but Cell had suppressed his ki. He had vanished into the population, a needle in a haystack of millions. Piccolo stood alone in the silent stadium. The wind whistled through the empty seats. He felt a chill run down his spine. He realized the magnitude of the threat. The creature was loose. It was hungry. It could hide anywhere. And it knew everything they knew. It knew their moves. It knew their weaknesses. It knew their fears. And somewhere unsuspecting were androids 17 and 18. The keys to the apocalypse. Cell ran. He ran through the forest, away from Ginger Town. He was injured despite the regeneration. His energy was low. He was terrified. Piccolo was a monster. He was far stronger than the computer had predicted. "I need more," Cell whispered to himself as he weaved through the trees. More people, more life. He found a cave near the river. He crawled inside, hiding in the dark. He sat there panting. He listened to the sound of the water flowing outside. He listened to the beat of his own heart. He felt the instincts of his creators warring inside him. Vegeta's cells screamed at him to go back and fight. "Don't be a coward, destroy him," Frieza's cells whispered to him to be patient, wait, plot, strike when they are weak. Goku's cells felt a strange excitement. He was strong. I want to fight him again. Cell silenced them all. "Not yet," he hissed. "I need to grow." He looked at his tail. The needle dripped with the essence of the people of Ginger Town. It wasn't enough. He looked at the map in his mind. There were other towns. Basel Airport, Nikki Town, Chaske Village. Thousands of people. Thousands of meals. He would eat them all. He would empty this world one city at a time until he was strong enough to take what was his. He closed his eyes. He rested his head against the cold stone of the cave. He imagined perfection. He imagined a body that wasn't skeletal and ugly. He imagined a face that was handsome. He imagined power that would make the sky bow down. "Soon," Cell whispered. The inciting incident was over. The monster was revealed. The hunt had begun. And all across the world, people went to sleep in their beds, unaware that a shadow was moving toward them. A shadow that was hungry for their future. The hunt was a lonely business. Cell moved through the world like a virus in the bloodstream of a giant. He was efficient, silent and invisible. He did not fly. Flying left a trail of energy that the hunters could track. Instead, he ran. He ran through the dense forests where the sunlight barely touched the ground. He ran through the deep ravines carved by ancient rivers. He submerged himself in murky lakes, walking along the bottom, letting the water mask his presence. He was a fugitive in a world that belonged to gods. Piccolo, Vegeta, Trunks, Krillin, they were all searching for him. He could feel their energy sweeping across the planet like searchlights. Every time they drew near, Cell would freeze. He would suppress his ki until he was nothing more than a stone, a tree, a shadow. He would hold his breath, his heart beating slowly against his ribs, waiting for the golden lights to pass. It was humiliating. He was designed to be the ultimate life form. He was composed of the genetic material of the strongest warriors in history, and yet, here he was, hiding in a damp cave, eating the life force of a small village just to survive. He looked at his hands. They were still the hands of the imperfect form, 3 fingers, spotted skin, sharp claws. They felt clumsy. They felt incomplete. Patience, the voice of Frieza whispered in his mind. A king does not rush his coronation. Strength, the voice of Vegeta growled. Take what is yours. Crush them. Strategy, the voice of Piccolo advised. Wait for the opening. Cell listened to the ghosts. He let them guide him. He moved from Nikki Town to Chasuke Village to Basel Airport. He left a trail of empty clothes behind him, a silent testament to his hunger. With every life he absorbed, the emptiness inside him shrank by a fraction. His power grew. His speed increased. The fear of the hunters began to fade, replaced by a cold, simmering confidence. He was growing. He was evolving. He was becoming the monster he was meant to be. Then he felt it. It was a vibration in the air, a disturbance in the energy field, so massive it felt like a tectonic shift. He stopped. He was standing on a cliff overlooking the ocean. The wind whipped his tail back and forth. He closed his eyes and extended his senses. Far away, on a chain of tropical islands, the androids had been found. He felt the familiar biological energy of Piccolo. But it was surging. It was violent. Piccolo was fighting, and he was fighting something that didn't have a key signature, something mechanical, something infinite. 17, Cell whispered. The name tasted like sweet nectar. The opportunity had arrived. The hunters were distracted. The prey was exposed. The game of hide and seek was over. Cell flared his aura. For the first time in days, he didn't suppress it. He let it explode. A pillar of golden purple light erupted from the cliff, shattering the rock beneath his feet. I am coming, he roared to the ocean. He launched himself into the air. He flew. He didn't care about stealth anymore. He broke the sound barrier, then double that. He tore through the clouds, a meteor of hunger heading straight for the banquet. The islands were a paradise of green jungles and white sand beaches, floating in a turquoise sea. But the paradise was burning. Piccolo and Android 17 were locked in a brutal dance. Energy blasts had leveled the forests. Craters smoked in the sand. Cell arrived. He descended slowly, floating down like a dark angel. He landed on a ridge overlooking the battlefield. The fighting stopped. Piccolo looked up, his face pale with recognition. Android 17 turned, his blue eyes scanning the newcomer with arrogant curiosity. Android 16, the silent giant, stood by the trees, his sensors analyzing the threat. And Android 18 sat on a rock, looking bored, brushing dust from her skirt. "It's you," Piccolo said, his voice tight with dread. "You've changed. You're stronger." "I have eaten well," Cell replied. His voice was still that raspy drone, but it carried a new weight. It vibrated in the chest. "And now, I am here for the main course." He looked at 17. The boy looked so small. He wore a black t-shirt, jeans, and an orange bandana. He looked like a teenager on a rebellious road trip. But Cell knew better. Inside that small frame was an infinite energy reactor. Inside that frame was the missing piece of the puzzle. "Who is the bug?" 17 asked, smirking. "One of your friends? Piccolo?" "He is not my friend," Piccolo shouted. "Run, 17. You don't understand. He wants to absorb you. He is a monster made to destroy us all." 17 laughed. It was a confident, naive laugh. "Absorb me? I'm the strongest android in the world. Nothing can beat me." Cell stepped down from the ridge. "Ignorance," he mused, "is a blessing. It makes the end so much more surprising." Piccolo attacked. He knew he had to stop this. He charged Cell, desperate to protect the very enemy he had been trying to kill minutes ago. But it was too late. Cell swatted Piccolo aside. It wasn't a fight. It was a dismissal. He broke the Namekian's guard, broke his bones, and threw him into the ocean. "You are old news, Piccolo," Cell said, not even looking back as the water swallowed the Guardian. "My business is with the machines." He turned to 17. 17 attacked. He was fast. He was relentless. His energy never dropped. He punched Cell, kicked him, blasted him with waves of power, but Cell took it all. He stood there, his exoskeleton absorbing the blows. He smiled. "Is that it?" Cell asked. "Is that the infinite power of Dr. Gero's masterpiece?" He grabbed 17. The struggle was violent but brief. Cell was simply too strong now. The thousands of humans he had absorbed had pushed him beyond the level of a Super Saiyan. He pinned 17 to the ground. The android struggled, his eyes wide with the sudden, terrifying realization that he was mortal. Cell's tail opened. The funnel expanded. It looked like a flower blooming, but a flower made of muscle and hunger. "No!" 16 shouted, rushing forward. "17! Get away!" But 16 was too slow. The tail descended. It swallowed 17 whole. It was grotesque. It was silent. The android's body was pulled into the bio-android's frame. The tail pulsed. Once, twice. Cell threw his head back. The transformation began. It wasn't like the mold in the forest. This was an evolution. A blinding light erupted from Cell's body. The ground shook. The ocean receded from the shore, pushed back by the sheer pressure of the energy being released. Inside the light, Cell's body changed. His skeleton expanded. His muscles grew dense and bulky. The beak-like mouth receded, replaced by more human-like lips. His feet changed from three-toed claws to something resembling boots. His face became more defined, more expressive. When the light faded, semi-perfect Cell stood on the beach. He was huge. He was a titan. His chest was broad, his shoulders massive. He looked less like an insect and more like a golem. But he was ugly. His face was thick and brutish. His lips were large and pink. He looked like a brute, a thug. Cell looked at his hands. He clenched them. The power. It was intoxicating. It surged through him like a roaring river. He felt 17's energy reactor humming inside him, providing a limitless stamina he had never known. Yes, Cell groaned. His voice had changed. It was deeper now, boomier, less raspy, but more arrogant. This is power. This is what I was promised. He looked at 18. She stood by the trees, frozen in horror. She had watched her brother vanish. She watched this monster wear his energy like a new coat. "You're next," Cell said, grinning. But before he could move, a new challenger arrived. Vegeta. The Prince of Saiyans had emerged from the hyperbolic time chamber. He hovered in the sky, his arms crossed, looking down at the scene with bored disdain. Trunks floated beside him, looking worried, but Vegeta looked like a man who had just bought the casino. "So," Vegeta called down, "this is the monster everyone is afraid of? You're ugly." Cell looked up. He sensed the power. It was high, higher than before. But Cell was semi-perfect now. He was invincible. "Vegeta," Cell boomed. "You're just in time to watch me become a god." "God?" Vegeta laughed. He descended slowly. "I don't believe in gods. I believe in training." Vegeta landed on the sand. He didn't take a fighting stance. He just stood there. Vegeta powered up. It wasn't the standard Super Saiyan transformation. This was something else. His hair grew spikier, sharper. His muscles swelled, straining against his blue bodysuit. His aura turned from a flowing flame into jagged sparks of lightning. Super Vegeta. "Allow me to demonstrate," Vegeta said, "what a real Saiyan elite looks like." The fight that followed was not a battle. It was a humiliation. Cell attacked with everything he had. He used his speed, he used his strength. He punched Vegeta in the face. Vegeta didn't move. He took the punch. He smirked. "Is that all?" Vegeta asked. He punched Cell in the stomach. Cell folded. He gasped, purple blood spraying from his mouth. The pain was absolute. It wasn't just physical, it was existential. He was semi-perfect. He had absorbed an android. He was supposed to be the strongest being in the universe. Why was this small man beating him? Vegeta dismantled him. He kicked Cell through mountains. He blasted him into the ocean. He treated the ultimate life form like a punching bag. Cell lay in the sand, battered and broken. He pounded the ground with his fist. "No," Cell screamed. "It's not fair. I am perfection. I am the end of the line." "You're a disappointment," Vegeta scoffed, preparing a final blast. "You're just a big, clumsy bug." Cell looked at Vegeta. He looked at 18, hiding behind a rock nearby. He realized he couldn't win with strength. Vegeta was too strong, the gap was too wide. He needed to use his other weapon. He needed to use the Saiyan cells inside him, not the strength, but the pride. He needed to use the Frieza cells, the manipulation. He stood up. He wiped the blood from his mouth. He stopped fighting. "You're right," Cell said, his voice trembling with fake humility. "You are stronger, Vegeta. I am no match for you." Vegeta paused. He lowered his hand slightly. He liked hearing this. "It is a shame," Cell continued, looking at his own hands. "I came all this way. I traveled through time. I absorbed thousands of people, all to achieve my perfect form, a form that would truly test a warrior like you. But, alas, I will die here, unfinished. And you will never know if you could have beaten me at my best." He looked at Vegeta. He saw the spark in the prince's eyes, the curiosity, the ego. "My perfect form," Cell whispered, "would offer you a challenge worthy of a legend. It would be a fight that would shake the universe, but go ahead. Kill me now. Take the easy win, like a coward." The word hung in the air. Coward. Vegeta's eye twitched. Trunks screamed from the sky. "Father, don't listen to him. Kill him now. He's trying to trick you." But Vegeta wasn't listening to Trunks. He was listening to his own pride. He was listening to the ghost of his bloodline that demanded not just victory, but dominance. To kill a weak enemy was boring. To kill a perfect enemy, that was glory. "Go," Vegeta said quietly. Cell's heart skipped a beat. "What?" "I said go," Vegeta shouted, turning his back. "Get the girl. Become perfect. I want to see this power you speak of. And then I will crush it." Trunks tried to stop it. He attacked Cell. He fought his own father. It was chaos. But in the chaos, Cell found his moment. He used the solar flare again. A blinding white light engulfed the island. While everyone was blinded, Cell moved. He didn't run away. He ran toward 18. She was blinded, stumbling on the sand. "Krillin, help me!" Cell loomed over her. He opened his tail. "Gotcha," he whispered. He swallowed her. The second absorption was different. It wasn't just power, it was completion. A barrier of energy surrounded Cell. It was impenetrable. Trunks fired blasts at it, but they bounced off harmlessly. Inside the barrier, the semi-perfect form began to melt away. The bulky muscles shrank. The brutish face dissolved. The ugliness was purged. The exoskeleton turned a pristine, polished white. The green spots became elegant accents. The face that emerged was human, handsome, refined. The horns on his head sharpened into a regal crown. The light faded. Perfect Cell stood on the battlefield. He was smaller than before, sleeker. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like a statue carved from jade and porcelain. He stood perfectly still, his arms hanging loosely at his sides. He took a breath. At last, Cell said. His voice was perfect. It was deep, smooth, resonant. It commanded attention. It was the voice of a being who knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that he was superior to everything else in existence. He looked at his hands. He clenched them. The power was silent. It didn't roar like the semi-perfect form. It was a deep, calm ocean, limitless. He looked at Vegeta. Vegeta stared back, his eyes wide. He sensed it too, the shift. He had made a mistake, a terrible, fatal mistake. So, Cell smiled. It was a polite, terrifying smile. Shall we begin the real fight, Prince? He didn't wait for an answer. He moved. He didn't just move fast, he moved instantly. One moment he was standing still, the next he was in front of Krillin. He kicked Krillin, gently. Krillin flew across the ocean, skipping like a stone. Trunks powered up. He turned into a bulky Super Saiyan, his muscles swelling to massive proportions. He attacked Cell. Cell didn't dodge. He just stood there. Trunks' fist hit Cell's face. Nothing happened. Cell didn't flinch. His head didn't move. He looked at Trunks with pity. You have power, Cell lectured, his voice calm. But you have sacrificed speed. You can't hit what you can't catch. It is crude. He knocked Trunks out with a chop to the neck. Then he turned to Vegeta. Vegeta, realizing the magnitude of his error, launched a final flash. It was an attack that channeled all his energy, a beam that stretched out into deep space. It hit Cell. It blew off half his body. Vegeta laughed, panting. I did it! From the smoke, Cell stepped out. The destroyed half of his body quivered. The Namekian cells activated. Pop. His arm, his wing, his leg. They grew back instantly. There was no damage. There was no fatigue. A good attempt, Cell said, dusting off his shoulder. It actually stung. A little. He walked over to Vegeta. He grabbed the prince by the hair. He lifted him up. You wanted a challenge, Cell whispered. You wanted to see perfection. Look at me, Vegeta. Look at your folly. He punched Vegeta. It was a punch that ended the fight. It ended the pride. It ended the debate. Vegeta fell, unconscious, his golden hair fading back to black. Cell stood alone on the island. The sea fighters were broken. The androids were gone. The hunters had become the prey, and the prey had become the god. He looked up at the sky. The clouds were parting. The sun was shining down on his perfect form. But something was wrong. He felt bored. He had achieved his goal. He was perfect. He was the strongest. And now, there was nothing left to do. The hunger was gone, replaced by a vast, empty purpose. What does a bomb do after it explodes? What does a racer do after crossing the finish line? Is this it? Cell asked the wind. He looked at the unconscious warriors. He realized he couldn't kill them. If he killed them, he would be truly alone. He would be a god in an empty universe. He needed a purpose. He needed a stage. He needed to prove his perfection to the world, not just in a skirmish on an island, but in a spectacle. An idea formed in his mind, a memory from Goku's cells, a memory from the World Martial Arts Tournament. A tournament, Cell mused. Yes, a game. He would host a tournament, the Cell Games. He would give them 10 days to train. He would give them a chance to beat him. And if they failed, he would destroy the solar system. It was the perfect plan. It satisfied his Saiyan love of battle, his Frieza love of terror, and his Namekian love of wisdom. He flew away. He flew to the center of a wasteland. He landed. With his mind, he carved the rock. He cut blocks of stone. He lifted them into the air. He built a ring, a simple square fighting ring. He stood in the center of it. He crossed his arms. He closed his eyes. He would wait. The struggle was over. The ascent was complete. Now, the performance would begin. And as Cell stood there, a perfect statue in the middle of nowhere, the world held its breath. The nightmare wasn't hiding in the shadows anymore. It was standing in the sunlight, waiting for a challenger. Sleep now, listeners. The monster has stopped hunting. The chaos has settled into a terrified silence. Let the image of the ring fade. Let the noise of the battle dissolve. There is only the wind blowing across the wasteland. There is only the steady, calm breathing of a being who has nothing left to fear. You are safe. The game has not started yet. You have time to rest. Good night. The wasteland was vast and flat, a canvas of cracked earth and white stone baking under the relentless sun. In the center of this desolation stood the ring. It was a simple square, 20 meters by 20 meters, carved with laser precision. At each corner, a pillar of marble rose, topped with a brazier where a small, silent flame burned. It was a monument to order in a world of chaos. In the center of the ring stood Cell. He had been standing there for days. He was a statue of perfection, his white carapace gleaming, his arms crossed over his chest. He did not eat. He did not sleep. He did not sweat. He simply waited. He was meditating on his own existence. He thought about the cells inside him. He felt the Saiyan desire for battle thrumming in his veins like a drumbeat. He felt the Namekian patience, deep and cool like a subterranean river. He felt the frost demon's arrogance, a cold, hard diamond in his mind. He was no longer a collection of ghosts. He was a symphony, and today was the day the music would reach its crescendo. The Z fighters arrived. They descended from the sky like falling stars. Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Trunks, Piccolo, Krillin, Tien, Yamcha. They landed on the rocky outskirts of the arena. They looked tense. They looked prepared. Cell opened his eyes. "Welcome," he said. His voice was calm, carrying across the distance without effort. "I'm glad you could make it. It would be a shame to destroy the Earth without an audience." Goku stepped forward. He looked relaxed, almost cheerful. "Hey, Cell, you ready?" "I was born ready, Goku," Cell smiled. "I was designed for this moment." The Cell games began. The first match was a farce. A human champion named Hercule Satan, a man of loud boasts and weak punches, tried to challenge the god. Cell didn't even use his hands. He simply flicked his aura, sending the man flying into a mountain. It was a joke, a warm-up. Then Goku entered the ring. The air changed. The playfulness vanished. The two strongest beings in the universe stood face to face. They fought. It was a spectacle that defied physics. They moved faster than light, vanishing and reappearing in bursts of shockwaves. They fought in the air, on the ground, underground. They fired beams that could have vaporized moons, deflecting them with casual slaps of their hands. Cell enjoyed it. He truly, deeply enjoyed it. He felt the rush of combat, the thrill of meeting an equal. He used Goku's own techniques against him. The Kamehameha, the instant transmission. He wanted to show Goku that he was a better version of himself. But then Goku did something unexpected. He quit. He stepped out of the ring, panting, sweating. "I give up," Goku said. "I can't beat you, Cell." Cell was stunned. He felt a flash of disappointment, sharp and bitter. "You quit? Is that it? Is this the legendary Saiyan spirit?" "I can't beat you," Goku repeated, wiping his forehead. "But he can." Goku pointed to a boy standing on the sidelines. Gohan. The boy was small. He wore a purple gi and a white cape. He looked terrified. He didn't look like a warrior. He looked like a scholar who had wandered into a war zone. Cell looked at the boy. He laughed. "Him?" Cell scoffed. "You are sending a child to fight a god? This is insulting, Goku." But Goku smiled. "Go on, Gohan. Show him." Gohan stepped into the ring. He was trembling. He didn't want to fight. He hated fighting. He hated the noise, the pain, the anger. "I don't want to kill you," Gohan said softly. "My father thinks I have a hidden power. When I get angry, I lose control. I destroy things. Please, don't make me do this." Cell stopped laughing. He looked at the boy with interest. Hidden power? Anger? This intrigued him. The perfectionist in him wanted to see it. He wanted to test the limits of this hidden power. "So, Cell mused, walking closer. "You need to get angry? Is that the trigger?" He decided to pull the trigger. He didn't attack Gohan. He attacked the others. He spawned miniature versions of himself. Cell Juniors. Small, blue, malicious creatures that cackled with glee. "Go," Cell commanded. "Make him angry." The Juniors attacked the Z-Fighters. It was a massacre. Yamcha fell, Tien fell, even Goku, exhausted from his fight, was beaten down. Vegeta and Trunks struggled to hold the line. Gohan watched. He watched his friends being tortured. He watched his father being kicked into the dirt. He screamed for them to stop, but the dam didn't break. Not yet. Gohan was holding it back, terrified of his own rage. Then, a head rolled onto the battlefield. It was Android 16. The gentle giant had tried to self-destruct to kill Cell, but he had failed. Cell had destroyed his body, leaving only his head. Hercule Satan, in a moment of surprising bravery, threw the head near Gohan. 16 looked up at the boy. His mechanical eyes were fading. "Gohan," the android whispered, "it is not a sin to fight for the right cause. There are those who words alone will not reach. Protect the life I loved, the birds, the trees." Cell walked over. He looked down at the head. "What a nice sentiment," Cell sneered. He raised his foot. He crushed the head. The metal crunched. The light in 16's eyes went out. Silence. The wind stopped. The Cell Jr. stopped laughing. The Z fighters froze. Something snapped inside Gohan. It was audible. A sharp, psychic crack that echoed in everyone's mind. The boy didn't scream. He didn't cry. He exhaled. A red line appeared in his mind, snapping the leash he had kept on his soul. "I won't watch this anymore," Gohan whispered. The ground exploded. A pillar of light erupted from Gohan. But it wasn't the golden flame of a Super Saiyan. It was lightning. Violent, jagged, white-hot lightning. His hair stood up, rigid and sharp. A single lock of hair fell over his forehead. His aura changed, becoming denser, sharper, crackling with electricity. Super Saiyan 2. Cell watched, mesmerized. He felt the power rising. It was immense. It was terrifying. It was perfect. "Yes!" Cell shouted, spreading his arms. "That's it! Show me!" Gohan didn't speak. He walked forward. He moved so fast that Cell didn't see him. Gohan appeared in front of a Cell Jr. He didn't punch it. He simply walked through it. The creature vaporized in a cloud of blue smoke. One by one, Gohan destroyed the juniors. He didn't fight them. He erased them. He was cut. He was efficient. He was a surgeon, removing tumors. Then he turned to Cell. He walked up to the perfect being. He looked up at him. Gohan's eyes were teal-green, but they were devoid of mercy. They were the eyes of judgment. Cell punched Gohan in the face. Full power. Gohan didn't blink. Cell stepped back, stunned. "What?" Gohan punched Cell in the stomach. It wasn't a normal punch. It was a kinetic impact that folded Cell in half. It shattered his perfect carapace. It ruptured his internal organs. Cell fell to his knees, gasping, clutching his stomach. He looked at the ground, confused. Pain? He felt pain? "No," Cell wheezed. "I am perfection." He stood up, enraged. He flew into the sky. He charged a Kamehameha, a massive one, enough to destroy the earth. "I will destroy you," Cell screamed. "I will destroy this whole planet." Gohan stood on the ground. He looked up at the blue doom descending. "No, you won't," Gohan said. Gohan fired his own Kamehameha. The beams clashed, but Gohan's was stronger. It swallowed Cell's blast. It hit Cell. It tore off his arm. It tore off his leg. It It shredded his wings. Cell crashed to the ground. He was broken. He was beaten. And then the unthinkable happened. The damage was too severe. The absorption matrix failed. Cell retched. His chest heaved. His throat expanded. He vomited. Out of his mouth, covered in fluid, slid Android 18. She fell to the ground, unconscious. Cell gasped. His body began to shift. He shrank. His face melted. His muscles atrophied. He reverted. He was semi-perfect again. The brute, the thug. He looked at his hands. They were clumsy and thick. He touched his face. The handsome features were gone. "No!" Cell screamed, his voice boomy and pathetic. "My perfection! You took it! Give it back!" He was losing his mind. The computer in his brain was flashing red errors. Defeat was not programmed. Regression was not an option. He made a desperate choice. The freezer cells took over. If he couldn't win, no one would. He began to inflate. His body swelled like a balloon. He grew rounder, larger. His energy became unstable, a ticking time bomb. "I win," Cell laughed, his voice distorted. "I will self-destruct. I will take you all with me. The explosion will destroy the Earth. There is no escape." The Z-fighters watched in horror. They couldn't attack him. If they hit him, he would explode instantly. Gohan fell to his knees. I should have finished him. I played around too long." The countdown began. Cell was seconds away from detonation. Then Goku stepped forward. He looked at his friends. He looked at his son. He smiled. "You did good, Gohan," Goku said. "I'm proud of you." Goku placed his hand on Cell's bloated stomach. Cell's eyes went wide. "What are you doing?" "Taking you for a ride," Goku said. "Pop." They vanished. Goku used instant transmission. He took the bomb away. He took Cell to the only place he could think of where no one would get hurt. King Kai's planet. Cell reappeared on the small, grassy world in the other world. He saw King Kai, Bubbles the monkey, and Gregory the cricket. "Sorry, King Kai," Goku shouted. Cell screamed, "No! I am perfect!" Boom! The explosion was absolute. It vaporized King Kai's planet. It vaporized Goku. It vaporized Cell. On Earth, the Z-fighters watched the sky. They felt Goku's energy vanish. Gohan cried. He slammed his fists into the ground. "Daddy!" It was over. The monster was dead. The hero was dead. The sacrifice was made. But in the vacuum of space, amidst the dust of a destroyed world, a single cell survived. It was the core, the nucleus, a tiny microscopic chip of biology that contained the blueprint of the soul. And it had Saiyan cells, Senkai. When a Saiyan survives a near-death experience, they grow stronger. Cell hadn't just survived, he had been reborn. The nucleus regenerated. It pulled the matter from the cosmos. It rebuilt the body. but it didn't rebuild the semi-perfect body. The genetic memory of perfection was stored in the core. And now, powered by the Zenkai boost, it didn't need 18. It was super perfect. On Earth, a dust cloud appeared in the center of the ring. A bolt of lightning struck the ground. From the smoke, a finger pointed out. A death beam fired. It hit Trunks. The boy fell, a hole in his chest, dead before he hit the ground. The smoke cleared. Cell stood there. He was back. He was perfect. And now he had lightning in his aura. He was Super Saiyan 2. "Did you miss me?" Cell asked. Vegeta screamed. His son was dead. He lost control. He charged Cell, firing blasts in a blind rage. Cell slapped Vegeta away. He prepared to kill the prince. Gohan stood up. He was injured. His arm was broken from protecting Vegeta. He was tired. He was alone. Cell smiled. He gathered his energy. "This is it," Cell said. "The solar Kamehameha. Enough power to destroy the entire solar system. Say goodbye, Gohan." Cell fired. A massive, world-ending beam of blue light roared toward Gohan. Gohan stood there, one arm hanging uselessly at his side. He looked at the beam. He looked at death. "I can't," Gohan whispered. "Gohan!" A voice in his head. It was Goku, speaking from the other world. "Don't give up, son. Plant your feet. Use your other hand. You can do this. You're stronger than him." Gohan gritted his teeth. He raised his one good hand. Came. He summoned every ounce of energy he had left, every drop of rage, every shred of hope. Haim! Cell's beam was inches away. Ha! Gohan fired. The two beams collided. Blue against blue. It was a stalemate. The ground beneath them melted. The air turned into plasma. The world shook. Cell pushed. Die! 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 Gohan was slipping. He was losing ground. Then a small blast hit Cell in the back of the head. Cell flinched. What? He looked back. It was Vegeta, floating in the sky, panting, hand outstretched. I am the Prince of all Saiyans, Vegeta shouted. It wasn't a damaging attack, but it was a distraction. For 1 millisecond, Cell's concentration broke. Now, Gohan, Goku screamed. Gohan let go. He didn't just push, he exploded. He poured his soul into the blast. The beam expanded. It swallowed Cell's attack. It rushed forward like a tidal wave. Cell looked at it. He saw his end. I am perfect, Cell whispered. The light took him. It disintegrated his shell. It disintegrated his cells. It found the core, the nucleus, and it erased it. Every atom of the monster was scrubbed from existence. The beam shot out into space, leaving a trail of light across the stars. Silence returned to the wasteland. Gohan fell to his knees, panting. His hair turned black. He smiled. The nightmare was over. The light from the solar Kamehameha didn't just fade. It dissolved. It drifted away like mist in the morning sun. carrying with it the atoms of the monster who had tried to be a god. The wasteland was silent. It was a profound, heavy silence. The kind of silence that follows a storm, when the air is scrubbed clean and the world feels fragile and new. The craters in the earth smoked gently. The rocks, melted by the heat of the battle, began to cool, ticking and popping as they settled. Gohan lay on his back. He looked up at the sky. The dark clouds that Cell had summoned were breaking apart. Shafts of golden sunlight pierced through the gloom, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The sky wasn't the bruised purple of the battle anymore. It was a pale, washing blue. Gohan breathed in, out. His chest rose and fell with a jagged rhythm. His arm throbbed, a dull ache that anchored him to reality. His hair had turned back to black, lying messy and sweat-matted against his forehead. The lightning was gone. The rage was gone. He was just a boy again. The Z fighters gathered around him. They didn't cheer. They didn't shout. They were too tired for victory cries. They simply stood there, a circle of battered warriors sharing the quiet realization that they were alive. Piccolo floated down. He placed a green hand on Gohan's shoulder. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The pride in his eyes was louder than any speech. Vegeta stood apart from the group. He was looking at the spot where Cell had disintegrated. He was looking at the empty space where his son, Trunks, had fallen moments before. Trunks was dead, a hole in his chest, a life cut short. But on this world, death is not always the end. They summoned the dragon. The sky turned pitch black, not with the malice of Cell, but with the magic of Shenron. The massive green serpent rose from the Dragon Balls, towering over the lookout. His red eyes glowed in the darkness. "I shall grant your wishes," the dragon rumbled. The first wish was simple: to revive everyone killed by Cell. On the wasteland, Trunks gasped, his eyes flew open, the hole in his chest knitted together. Flesh and bone reforming in a flash of magic. He sat up, confused, looking at his hands. Vegeta didn't hug him. He didn't cry. He simply crossed his arms and looked away, a small private smile touching the corner of his mouth. The prince had learned through the loss that even he had a heart to break. Then, the second wish, to bring back Goku. The group waited. They looked at the dragon, expecting the familiar flash of light, expecting the goofy smile and the orange gi to appear in their midst. Silence. "I cannot grant that wish," Shenron boomed. "Goku refuses." "Refuses?" Krillin asked, blinking at the sky. Then, a voice. It came not from the dragon, but from the air itself. It was warm. It was cheerful. It sounded like sunshine. "Hey guys!" Goku, speaking from the other world. "Don't worry about me," Goku's voice echoed. "I've been thinking. Every time a bad guy shows up, it's because they're looking for me. Frieza, the androids, Cell. I'm a magnet for trouble. Maybe the Earth is safer without me." Gohan looked at the sky. Tears welled in his eyes. "Dad, you don't need me anymore, Gohan," Goku said softly. "You beat him. You're stronger than I ever was. You're the protector now. Take care of your mom for me, okay?" The connection faded. The voice drifted away into the afterlife. Gohan wiped his eyes. He didn't argue. He understood. It was a sacrifice, yes, but it was also a gift. Goku was giving Gohan the one thing he had never truly had: a normal life. A life where he didn't have to be a soldier in his father's war. The dragon dispersed, the balls scattered, turning to stone. The Z fighters parted ways. There were no grand farewells, just nods of respect. They were soldiers leaving the battlefield, returning to the lives they had fought to keep. Trunks remained for one more day. He stood by his time machine, the yellow, bulbous craft that had brought him through the currents of history. It was repaired now, gleaming in the sunlight of the Capsule Corp garden. Vegeta stood on the balcony above, leaning against the railing. He didn't come down. He didn't say goodbye. But as Trunks climbed into the cockpit, Vegeta raised 2 fingers in a silent salute. It was enough. It was everything. Trunks smiled. He closed the canopy. The engine fired. He rose into the air, waving to his mother, waving to Gohan. The machine blurred, distorting the light, and then vanished. He traveled back to the rain, back to the gray sky, back to the ruins. But he was different now. He wasn't the frightened boy who had fled the future. He was a warrior who had trained with gods. He was a man who had seen the sun. He arrived in age 788. The future androids were waiting. They were destroying a city, laughing in the rubble. Trunks didn't hide. He didn't run. He walked out to meet them. "You're back?" 17 laughed. "Did you bring us a souvenir?" Trunks drew his sword, but he didn't use it. He simply flared his aura, a golden light that pushed back the gray clouds. "I brought you your end," Trunks said. It was quick. It wasn't a struggle. It was a correction. He destroyed 17. He destroyed 18. And then, months later, when the imperfect cell of his timeline emerged from the ground, looking for the time machine, Trunks was waiting. "I know you," Trunks said to the monster. "I know how you think, and I know how you die." He erased Cell. He erased the last shadow of the nightmare. The future was silent. But it wasn't the silence of the grave anymore. It was the silence of a blank page. Trunks stood in the ruins, looking up. For the first time in his life, the smog cleared. And in the future, the sun finally came out. Back in the past, time moved on. 7 years passed. The world forgot about Cell. The terror of the broadcasts, the panic in the streets, it faded into memory, then into myth. People went back to their jobs. They rebuilt the cities. The grass grew over the craters in the wasteland. Hercule Satan took the credit, of course. The world believed the loud man with the afro had saved them, and the Z-fighters led him. They didn't want the fame. They wanted the peace. Gohan got his wish. He didn't train, he didn't fight. He went to high school. He carried books instead of dragon radars. He wore a uniform instead of a GE. He studied biology, history and literature. Sometimes, sitting in a classroom, looking out the window at the birds flying freely, he would think about Cell. It was strange. Cell had been a monster, a creature of vanity and hunger. But in a way, Cell had been the catalyst for everything. Cell had forced Vegeta to care about his son. Cell had forced Piccolo to reunite with God. Cell had forced Goku to make the ultimate sacrifice. And Cell had forced Gohan to stop being a frightened child and become a man. The monster had wanted perfection. He thought perfection was power. He thought it was the ability to destroy a solar system with a single blast. But Gohan knew better. He walked home from school. He saw his little brother, Goten, playing in the fields with Trunks. He saw his mother, Chi-Chi, cooking dinner, her face free of worry. He felt the gentle, unthreatened Kai of the planet. This was perfection. Not a golden aura, not a perfect body, but this. The laughter of children, the wind in the trees, the quiet, boring, beautiful safety of a Tuesday afternoon. Cell was a mosaic of the past, a collection of old grudges and old wars stitched together. But by defeating him, they had broken the cycle. They had stopped looking backward at Frieza and the Saiyans and started looking forward. The legacy of Cell was not destruction. The legacy of Cell was the peace he inadvertently created. He was the storm that cleared the air. Gohan stopped on a hill. He looked up at the sky. "Thanks, Dad," he whispered. The wind blew through his hair. It was warm. It smelled of grass and life. Far away, in the other world, a man with a halo and an orange guy smiled as he ate a massive bowl of rice. And even further away, in the deepest hell, a creature with a perfect jawline and black wings sulked in silence, forgotten by a universe that had moved on. The story is done. The energy blasts have faded. The screaming has stopped. The golden light has dimmed into the soft glow of twilight. We leave them there. The heroes living their lives. The world spinning slowly in the dark velvet of space. Take a moment now to feel your own stillness. Just as the earth settled after the battle, let your body settle. Let the muscles in your legs grow heavy. Let your hands rest gently. Let your mind stop searching for threats. There are no androids hunting you. There are no bio-androids waiting in the dark. There is only this room, this bed, this moment. You have walked through the fire. You have seen the evolution of a monster and the rise of a hero. You have seen the struggle and the victory. Now it is time for the aftermath. The quiet legacy of sleep. Drift away now. Let the story become a dream. Let the dream become a feeling of safety, a feeling of completion. You are perfect, just as you are, resting here in the dark. Good night, warrior. Good night.